pounds of extra skin removed, I carried all of my weight centrally, and even now I still do. You know, my more petite up top, and I'm all hips and stomach, and I was just huge in the stomach, and chest. And so September of 2011, I had a total tummy tuck. I have a scar that doesn't go quite around, all the way around, but it, you know, it's from here all the way around, and then from my sternum all the way down. They had to actually suck me in both ways because I had so much skin. And they had to tighten all the muscles because I had such a degree of separation. And I really thought going into that was going to be the end of my like emotional journey, and that was going to get me, you know, back to somebody, or, you know, to like a self-esteem of somebody that hadn't gone through what I had. And if anything, I think it was almost more damaging because I had such a high expectation that was going to fix everything. And of course it didn't. You know, I'm glad that I don't have, you know, that skin anymore, but, you know, like she says, I still have it in my arms, I still have it in my hips. So it's, you know, kind of a reminder, but I'm trying to get to the point now of being proud of my extra skin, as odd as that may sound. Sometimes I forget that the journey that it took me to go through there, and crying and being mad and wanting to quit. And it is a reminder to kind of look at it and say, you know what, I should be proud. I have done something really great for myself, for my future, for my husband. And, you know, it's something to be proud of. So emotionally, it's something I'm still working on, and have to kind of work on it every day and remind myself of where I came from.
I just think it's, she said never a couple times, and this is something that was totally unrelated to weight loss, but my dad always said never's a long time, and I've always thought that in my head, that, you know, I'll never get to do this, I'll never get to do that, and I've tried to take that out of my vocabulary as much as I can, but I just think that it's, you know, same deal. Always see yourself as a fat person or whatever. You try to take that away, but it's very hard. I mean, Tasha and I have talked many times. You know, she's asked me, "What if you know?" And until she asked me the question she did about, you know, image and things like that, I hadn't really thought about that too much. You know, I was just losing weight and having fun with it. But I don't know. I don't know if I've answered the question, but I just think it's getting to that point of, you know, realizing that you're never going to be Brad Pitt, or you're never going to be whoever. But I don't care. I mean, I'm, like I said, 265 pounds, and I'll take my shirt off all day long in the gym. I can care less because I know that I was 375 pounds and had no business taking my shirt off. So, you know, I think that's, you just got to come to a point where you're comfortable, and probably at the end really don't not care. I mean, we're all programmed to try to one-up the next person over. So you want to, you know, look good compared to other people, but at the end of the day, you just got to be happy with who you are, and you know, try to work through that.
Excellent. Second to last one I wanted to ask was, talk to me about happy stuff now. Like, what's the biggest thing that you think how has your life changed, and what's the biggest thing you've taken away from your experience that you know, if somebody else would want to go down the same path, you'd say, hey, but if you get to the end, this is what I've gained from the journey, and then from being where you are now. Is that a big
start?
We can start with you, yeah.
Well, we're going to Mexico as long as our congressman can come through and make sure my wife's lapsed passport gets here in time. But next month we're going to Mexico, and I know that when I step on the plane, the stewardess isn't going to say you need to buy 2 plane tickets, because I had to do that here probably a year ago, and it just pissed me off royally. And so I know that I can sit in one plane seat and not bother the next person from being fat, but that just, and
she told you when you walked on the plane?
Yeah, this was the steward. Yeah, I think actually it was when I walked up to the counter, they said you had to buy 2 plane tickets, and they ended up refunding the money because the plane didn't sell out, but still, that was another trigger. I just actually thought about that when you said it, but the other thing I've told Justin is actually being able to go to any store and buy clothes, and, you know, walk into, I remember what the stupid store was, but I bought a $40 T-shirt, and I told my wife at the time, I was like, I don't care. I'll probably never wear this T-shirt because it's like one of those V-neck hipster shirts, but I just wanted to buy it because I could, and I could actually fit into it, and because before I had to go to JCPenney's and buy the 4X polo shirts, and that's all I could wear. So, that's the fun thing about that, I guess.
Yeah, clothes is definitely being a girl, you want to wear all the cool clothes. And in school, like I was going to Lane Bryant, I'm like 16 years old and I'm shopping with my mom at Lane Bryant, so not cool. I never got to wear Nike. I never got to wear any of the cool clothes. So, if I were to talk to somebody about that, I'd say, you don't have to go, like you said, when I was heavy, I had to buy $80 jeans just so they would fit, and I can go anywhere now and buy clothes. When I was in high school, when our senior trip was to Cedar Point, and I sat in there and I sat in the seat just fine, and the lap belt thing came down and it clicked. The seat belt wouldn't fit on, and I'm like, trying to cover up, thinking that the attendant wouldn't notice that I couldn't get the seat belt on. Of course, they noticed, and I got kicked off the roller coaster. That kind of sucked, So it's like Josh said, those little things. Squeezing, even now, like squeezing in between like these chairs. Even now I feel my body turn sideways because like before that's what I would have had to do. So when I walk through chairs and I don't feel something, rub up against me, that's like awesome, and not to have to worry about whether I'm going to fit in certain areas.
Booths at restaurants.
Booths at restaurants. My boobs used to always flop over the table. As a woman, I was always self-conscious about that. And, now sometimes I'm always like, oh yeah, there's all this space in between the table. Inside my head, I celebrate those things. At work, I work at the Sheriff's Department in Whitley County. That's been a huge deal because a lot of the times before when I was heavy and I would have to get into physical situations with people, my weight set me back and I didn't feel safe. If I'm getting beat up by a man that was the same size as me, I'm obviously not gonna, win. If cardio-wise, I wouldn't be able to get myself out of it. And now, at least I feel like I could escape the area, or if I had to defend myself. So, yeah, those little things, I definitely try to celebrate. Especially if I'm having I call it a bad weight day. If I eat crappy the day before and I'm up a couple pounds, try to find those little things to celebrate instead of the scale.
I kind of a combination of their stories. I remember when I was kind of getting to the edge, and my husband and I were at Cedar Point, and it was like the last ride of the day, and he's like, you might want to test the seat and see if you can fit. And I was so embarrassed because my husband is just one of those annoying people who does not have to lose weight, ever think about it. He goes to Casa and has like 3 pieces of garlic cheese bread, and he's like, oh man, I lost a pound. I'm like, thanks, buddy.
I hate those people.
Yeah, I really want to punch those. But I think the biggest takeaway is like the sense of pride, and learning that it's okay to be proud of yourself and that you don't have to hide. It's definitely something I still work on. But yeah, clothes shopping is totally fun. Getting to wear white skinny jeans. And this is totally horrible, but it's fun on Facebook to go back and look at like your high school classmates who have gained weight, and then you look back and you're like, I'm 70 pounds thinner than I was in high school, haha. It's terrible, but yeah, I mean, it's learning to find, it's the amazing sense of pride and almost sense of invincibility you can create by just, taking care of yourself is amazing.
Last question I was going to ask is, and Kim, I know you run a blog, Healthy Strides,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you guys have talked with other people in the past who are trying to, lose weight as well. What kind of advice do you give to people? What kind of, if somebody was in the same boat you guys were in, how would you coach them, so to speak? What would you do for them?
Small steps, back to the walking. I kind of tell people to pick one or the other. You either pick to work on your food or you pick to work on your movement. It can be really overwhelming to go, oh man, I'm gonna have to eat 1,200 calories and work out an hour and a half a day. And that is where I failed each and every time. It was all or nothing, and I really took it slow, and focused on making small gains each week, learning to celebrate, and then realizing that what you think is normal is not normal. Even I do it even still. Like, I go out to dinner with friends and I see people order, the things I used to order, and I'm like, man, wouldn't it be nice to just eat normal like that? And then I realized that's not normal. Like, 1,000 calories on a plate is not normal. And that there is no end. You will constantly be working on this. And so do things that you can sustain. If paleo is something that you like, it's really easy with so much out there to feel like you have to eat a certain way or do a certain thing. You have to find what works for you. A lot of people, some of my family go, man, I just wish I could run. You don't have to run. That's just what I find rewarding. I won't say I like it all the time. And kind of learning to be adventurous and try new things and not be scared.
Yeah, I give similar advice in the small things, and and I'm sure like these two, I get asked all the time, what do you do? And it feels so silly to say because it really is simple. Move a little bit more, eat a little bit less, or a little bit healthier. And I just made like I said, small tweaks at the beginning. And even now that, like I said earlier, I would do a double cheeseburger meal with a Coke. Well, then I started doing a double cheeseburger with a meal with a diet. Then I went to a Happy Meal with a diet, and now McDonald's fries make me almost nauseous to smell anymore, just because that transition has happened. And it has to be a lifestyle change. And, I think anybody that loses any amount of weight, whether it's 20 pounds or, whether it's 200 pounds, has to understand that to maintain that, your mind has to change a little bit with that. And those little things really do add up to continue to live that lifestyle. So, yeah.
I just think it's, getting to know, like you said, what keeps you comfortable, what, for me, what keeps me coming back and committing is obviously to have children, but it's also to see friends and see people that I, half the people in this room that I know now, I had no clue who they were, 2 years ago. So, and seeing their wins and, being a part of that, seeing that, seeing what Mark's being able to do now, where a year ago he couldn't do, and now he's kicking my butt in workouts. So you're just seeing stuff like that keeps you, it's the drive of, the community of that, and seeing how people interact. And, maybe CrossFit isn't for you, maybe paleo isn't for you, but finding, like you said, finding what makes you comfortable. And I think having somebody being accountable, getting, whether it's, a friend that helps you get started at the why, or whatever that is for you. But yeah, I think that's what it's about. And seeing, for us, my wife and I, just seeing other friends, their wins. We've been able to lose some weight and everything else, but in the end, it really isn't about us. It's about, our lives, but it's also about seeing other people, do those wins, whether it's doing their first push-up or whatever it is in that. So I think that's what it's about.
Cool. Excellent. That's about, I wanted to have about 10 minutes for anybody that wanted to ask them any questions. Do you guys have any thoughts for them? If not, then we'll wrap it up. But yeah. What about
the food? Like, somebody said they had a food addiction. Like, how do you control that? And what about the sweets? And do you just count calories?
I guess I'll comment on that. I have finally got to a point where I don't feel guilty the majority of the time if I allow myself to eat bad. My husband and I live I'd say 75% paleo diet. But last night we wanted wings and beer, so that's what we had, was wings and beer. And I think like allowing ourselves to have that leeway and not being so strict is what keeps us on such a good path the majority of the time. That if I want ice cream, I can eat ice cream. At the same time, when I don't allow myself to have those treats, or I am trying to stay strict on a diet, I do remember that it's not like I'm never going to be able to not eat ice cream again. It's not a food. There's no food that's absolutely off limits to me. You brought up Casas earlier. I love Casas bread, and if I don't eat bread at dinner tonight, then I know, when I go to Casas, I'm going to allow myself to eat bread, and I'm going to eat the olive oil, and I'm going to eat the pasta. And I think even when I was losing the weight, if I was sticking to a salad tonight, that was fine, because I knew eventually I was going to have something later that I really wanted. So I think not being super strict was something that kept me on track a lot. So.
I still to this day, with Weight Watchers, you obviously count points, and so I did that. And then after I had my son, I tried to go back to Weight Watchers, and it just didn't click for me. So I still count calories. I track my food every day. I just know for me that it's really easy for me to get off track, quote unquote, if I'm not paying attention. Because to me, if I'm not tracking, it's giving myself permission to just kind of eat off the grid. As far as sugar is a huge issue. It's probably my biggest battle to this day. One of the huge things I've done in probably the past 3 months is give up artificial sweeteners, like of all kinds. And that means like no stevia, because that's like the huge thing now. Is like stevia is healthy and natural, but it's still giving you that sweet flavor. So by cutting out like Diet Coke, and you have to watch like the light yogurts. So everything, I try to eat as much as I can with no added sweetener, with the exception of like ice cream, which I try to keep to like a weekly basis. I know, like, if I'm joking about frozen yogurt, then maybe I really need to, kind of just deal with it and move on. So plain yogurt with fresh fruit, mixed in, oatmeal, bananas and raisins and cinnamon. And it's still really keeping an eye on portions. Like Justin mentioned, I had a blog, and it's easy to get caught up in this, like, social media world. You see people with these, like, giant bowls of oatmeal with like 10 globs of peanut butter and then granola on top, and it's like 600 calories, and you're like, oh, it's healthy because it's granola and it's peanut butter and oatmeal. Well, it's got like 30 grams of sugar in it. So the sugar is one thing I am mindful of daily. It's easy to get out of control.
Probably for my wife and I, it's just a lot of planning. We're on the go. I'm on job sites pretty much all day long. And it's just planning ahead, and I'll cook 3 or 4 pounds of chicken breasts and have chicken breasts every day for lunch for 1 week, but then the next week I go to hamburgers or whatever. But for me, it was eating 6 times a day, small portions, and then when I felt myself getting to the point of my body catching up to that and not losing weight, my goal ultimately is lose weight. So then I would switch it back to eating twice a day at the same amount of calories, and then I just kick back into it. But for us, it's a routine, and that was something in my life, not only just for my eating, but just everything's stride. My business, my relationship with my wife, we were pretty regimented in what we did, and then here the past 6 months we haven't been, and we can see it, just obviously in the scale going up. But for sugar, we've done just a lot, use honey for different things, but we've tried to, when we're trying to lose weight, like different challenges and things, I'm strict to I don't touch anything that has to do with sugar, and I know that I can't hang out with Justin and go to teppanyaki buffet, because I'll sit and just destroy the place. My friend and I used to have the attitude, when we go to Red Lobster for their all-you-can-eat shrimp, they're going to lose money on us. That was that was the mentality. And I know that for some people that I don't have high metabolism, I can't go and eat like that, or I will put on 20 pounds real quick. So you know, it's